Hello, greetings. This is Mr. Dyer from Mr. Dyer's Musings. I appreciate you coming on and checking out my video. And like always, I want to thank my wife, my lovely family for their unending support, my incredible students for always keeping me on my toes, my friends, my viewers like you. If you like this video, and I just urge you that you check out my channel and check out my other videos, please like, subscribe, and then you'll get notice of when I have new stuff that comes on. I am a teacher in profession. I teach high school social studies and government currently, and I have a bachelor's degree in U.S. history. I represent a Civil War surgeon, but I don't have any formal medical training. I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor, not a nurse practitioner or anything like that. I've taken first aid and CPR, and that's pretty much the extent of it. So this video is going to be about helping individuals who may be interested in getting involved in reenacting or living history. Kind of use those terms interchangeably, but reenactors are also called living historians. And that's a title of honor that's placed on them because most reenactors and living historians, they're not just putting on the costumes or the uniforms or material culture going out playing around. They tend to do a lot of research on the impressions that they do. Okay. So I figured I'd start out talking in general, and then I would narrow it down and talk specifically about medical reenacting towards the end. All right, so you're interested in being a living historian or reenactor. People that are involved in this hobby come from all walks of life, all types of different backgrounds. I had the opportunity when I was doing infantry years ago that I was sitting down waiting for a battle to start, and it turns out a mayor of an Ohio city was sitting right next to me, and we were talking and playing cards. I've seen lawyers and doctors generally speaking don't play Civil War surgeons because they get tired of doing it from their day to day, so they want to burn powder or do other things. But you never know who you're going to meet when you go to a living history or a reenactor. So that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty interesting. So no matter who you are, what your background is, we all kind of on the same playing field, which is pretty cool. Generally speaking, further back in history, the more expensive the hobby is going to be. I remember when I was a kid, before I even got into Civil War reenacting, I was really looking forward to doing Revolutionary War. I was like, man, that's what I want to do. That's pretty cool. I want to wear a continental coat and everything. And attended some type of event up in Columbus, and there was some Revolutionary War reenactors, and I was just standing there starry-eyed. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I went over to the guys, and I asked them, I was like, well, how much does this coat cost and all this other stuff? And the coat itself was costing like $500 or $600, but it was an astronomical price for a kid. I was just completely overwhelmed. I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way I can do that. And that's unfortunate because knowing what I know now, I probably still could have joined their unit, and they probably had some type of loaner gear and some other things to get me by. And I'll get to that here in a little bit. If you are willing to make things or learn how to make things, that can decrease the cost of the hobby significantly. And bonus, best part, you get to learn something new. You get to learn how to sew. You get to learn how to do some light woodworking or something like that. So don't let the cost automatically throw you off saying that, man, I can't do this, I guess I'll just sit on the sidelines and watch or attend the events. You can do it. Most units or most organizations or clubs, they have loaner gear that you can borrow to get you started out, especially during your exploratory phase. Generally speaking, units don't expect you to buy a bunch of stuff within the first year. And reenacting, pretty much the first thing that you're supposed to buy is a canteen, because we do our stuff in the summer and it gets really hot. And we want you to be safe and take care of yourself. And a canteen can cost about $30 or $40 or a little bit more. But generally speaking, even a nice, high quality used canteen is going to cost about $30 or $40. All right. So within the first year, you're not expected to purchase a bunch of stuff. Okay. You can buy stuff gradually And as you are part of a unit, an organization, just naturally, you want to pick up your own stuff, right? You get tired of asking people to borrow things. But a gun, depending on what unit, tends to be one of the middle or last things that you buy. So if you want to go in infantry, for example, it's usually like a middle or last purchase type item. The uniform and all this other stuff is definitely more affordable, and you're going to be able to purchase it a lot easier. So when you get the idea, you get the bug in your ear that you want to get involved in reenacting, you want to decide on what period of history, and start out with one, because one gets expensive. You can always build up on it from there, but start with one. Find a period of history that you're really passionate about, that you're really interested in. Maybe it's Civil War. Maybe it's Prohibition era. Maybe it's World War II, World War I. Maybe it's ancient Greeks or ancient Romans. Maybe it's Vikings. Whatever your interest is, stick with it and jump in, okay? Find a group and just dive in. Don't hesitate, because once you start hesitating, you're not going to do it, okay? You just got to dive in. You say, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to pick up the phone, or I'm going to get on Facebook or some other places. I'm going to send some emails, and I'm just going to do it, okay? So you need to dive in. The best thing to do to get an idea is if you know someone that's close to you, like a friend or someone that you went to high school with back in the day, reach out to them, because they're going to be able to help you out. Even if they don't reenact the same period of history that you're wanting to get into, they'll at least be able to help guide you in the right direction, okay? So remember, just go for it. Jump in. If I was that same little kid looking at that Rev War uniform, I knew what I knew now, I would have just dived in. I like Civil War now, though, too. I might get in Rev War eventually again. Next, you want to read. You want to read, you want to read, you want to read, and you want to read some more. And you want to research. You want to look at pictures. You want to look at paintings. You want to read diaries, letters, memoirs, anything that you can get your hands on that is regarding the time period that you're interested in. Go for it. Maybe even it's a Sears and Roebuck magazine. Those are pretty readily to find if you're into the 1920s or even late 1800s. Pick up magazines of the time period. Time magazine. It's been around for a while if you're wanting to get into more modern living history. But anything and everything that you can read, do it. And if you're going for the more modern stuff, even checking out oral histories on the Library of Congress, because the Library of Congress has a lot of recordings from the 1930s during the Great Depression of different veterans and different people under different situations. So that is a fantastic resource for you. If you are going into World War II, for example, there are projects out there right now of people interviewing World War II vets. And chances are there's probably at least a couple World War II vets and Korean War vets and Vietnam War vets at your local VFW. It doesn't hurt to ask. And maybe these guys don't want to tell you their whole story, but just introducing yourself and saying, hey, I love what you guys did for our country, and I want to get into living history so I can educate others about your guys' sacrifices and what you guys went through. They'll probably open up. They might not open up about everything, but they'll tell you about some of the minutia. Maybe they'll tell you about what boot camp was like for them, or a funny story that happened to them. That's a great resource. Okay, so to take those kind of opportunities and use full advantage. Understand that there are different levels of living history and reenacting out there. We have our own language, and depending on what era that you get into, there's going to be different catchphrases and languages and terms and slang that's being used just by reenactors, not necessarily even period slang or terms or whatever, just reenactor jargon. Most people, and this is talking from my Civil War experience, most people start out in the mainstream level of reenacting. That means nothing to you, right? Mainstream level of reenacting is it's a good start. It will get you in and it'll get you active for a while. And some people stay in mainstream level reenacting forever because that's where they like, that's what they're comfortable with. As far as material culture, like the uniforms, they're not made to the same standards of what the originals were. Okay, they might have machine sewn buttonholes instead of hand stitched buttonholes, for example. The cut and pattern of the uniform might be off in some way or another. And they might have just used Hollywood patterns and cut for their uniform, because in the 1960s and 70s, talking Civil War again, there was this resurgence, but a lot of it was just meant for Hollywood, and people just took it as it was. So mainstream's usually at the start. Usually you have coolers in the tent to keep your food cold. You have food that's being cooked over the campfire that you'd find in like your backyard cookout. Drill. If you're a military person, you're not necessarily going to be up to par with the best drill techniques, and you're probably going to use very basic maneuvers just to get you out in the field and burn some powder. I mean, I can go on and on, but mainstream level is where most people tend to start. There's the other extreme, which is called authentic level or authentic campaigning level. And a lot of reenactors over time leave the mainstream or move away from the mainstream level reenacting into the authentic. There's this middle area that's called progressive. And progressives tend to start putting a more correct kit together. They're attending not only mainstream level reenactments, but also some higher level, authentic level reenactments. And it's okay to stay even in progressive, to be in the medium. You know, like I said, it all depends on what you want to get out of it. If you're wanting just a friends get together, camping, talking about history, and still being very comfortable in your camping situation, mainstream's a place for you, especially if you're just trying to see if you're really going to get into this, right? You still like to have some of your more modern comforts, okay? An inflatable bed, for example, or a cot, Field and Stream cot, you know, then that's okay. So that's mainstream. And here on the authentic level, you're going to have to embrace the suck, as the military jargon goes. If it's raining, if it's wet or whatever, you're not going to just pack up everything and go to the local motel or hotel. Instead, you're just going to push through it. And you're doing that because on the authentic level, you're really wanting to get a first-hand experience and a first-hand account for yourself, just what an original person who, in your era, went through. You know, you're trying to understand through immersion, through experimental archaeology, exactly how bad or how good it was, you know. So authentic level is not necessarily for everybody. Some people never make it up there because that's not what they want out of it, you know. There's others, though, who take it very seriously, and they want to be freezing. They want to be wet. They want to be stuck in the mud or whatever. They want to hurt their back after a really crappy night's sleep. And then they want to do guard duty all night. And the next day, march 10 miles. And, you know, I mean, some people are into that. But if you're not into that, that's okay. There's no judgment, all right? The progressive is that person who's trying to figure out where they want to be, or maybe they just kind of stay there and they do some events this way and some events that way, and that's fine. I tend to classify myself more in the progressive line. My gear, I have shifted from the mainstream over into the authentic level, and on the events that I tend to portray myself in an authentic level, even with like the food and stuff. However, most of the events that I attend, like actually go to here in Central Ohio, tend to be more mainstream events. And because I like talking to public, I'm a teacher, I like teaching people. On the authentic level events, they don't necessarily open themselves to public all the time, so you don't get that interaction with them. The authentic level events tend to be designed for the reenactors. That way they can get that aha moment. So, and you can shift, swing one way or the other. You don't have to just go one extreme or the other. Okay? And that's pretty much for all events. Even mountain men. When I was 14 years old, my dog's whining. When I was 14 years old, I did some mountain man events, and there were some authentic level guys who were sleeping on bear skins and doing whatever, and you had these other guys who had their Baker tents with their inflatable mattresses or cots, and they're sleeping comfortable. Just depends. No judgment. It is what it is. As long as you're happy, as long as you're spreading history and hopefully correct history, then there's no judgment from me. Okay? Find a seasoned mentor. So once you find a group, and your best way to find a group is going on like Facebook, going to an event and seeing a group that you like, that you're really impressed with, ask them around. But when you join a group or a club or whatever, find a mentor. Okay? It doesn't necessarily have to be like the highest officer, whatever. Just find someone who you feel comfortable talking to and who is also comfortable helping you. Okay? You got to have that open communication with them. So if you're going to buy an item, they can guide you in the right direction. They can show you. They can teach you. They can give you suggestions. Okay? So finding a mentor is definitely important. All right. Let's see, what else do I want to get out of this? All right, so that's my suggestions for getting involved in living history, getting involved in reenacting as a whole. I am going to do a series of videos talking about different types of medical reenacting in the American Civil War that focuses primarily on what I've done and our style of reenacting. And if you are interested in medical reenacting, especially medical Civil War reenacting, those videos will be of use to you. And it's going to be a series, like I said. I'm going to talk about nurses and male nurses, actually. Not so much female nurses. I'll allude to some female nurse stuff, but I've never done female nurse. So I can't really give you a whole lot of background about actually doing that role, and I don't feel like I can. I will tell you some historical facts about female nurses, but that's just not my specialty. So I'll let another reenactor who's going to make a video at some point give you some guidance on that from a personal experience background. I'm going to talk to you about male nurses. I'm going to talk to you about the ambulance corps. I'm going to talk to you about medical cadets. I'm going to talk to you about hospital stewards. I'm going to talk to you about assistant surgeons and full surgeons. Each of those will be their own specific video. So, I hope you're excited about living history. I hope maybe watching some of my videos or other people's videos, it's getting you intrigued and interested. If you are interested in medical reenacting and you're from Central Ohio, reach out to me. I'd be happy to either, give you some input, take you along to some events, or even suggest other groups. I belong to Bernie's Division, which is a umbrella organization. I guess I didn't talk about that. But umbrella organizations are organizations which have a ton of different separate groups under them. On the authentic side, you would have groups like the Liberty Rifles. You would have 40 Rounds. You would have here in southwestern Ohio, Western Federal Blues. And that's like on the authentic and progressive side. And then on the mainstream side, you have groups like the Army of Ohio, you have Bernie's Division, you have Army of Northern Virginia, the ANV, even the Confederates have their own. So anyhow, that's just more jargon for you, and we won't get into that. But find yourself a small group first and figure it out from there. So anyhow, medical reenacting. If you are interested, watch some of my other videos, reach out to me. I'd be happy to guide you along. The one bit of advice I can give you, if you're interested in medical reenacting, find another medical reenactor. It's more important in that particular impression than almost any other to find another medical reenactor to try to leech, that would be like my medical pun, off of them to learn the trade and information, because there's so much. And you have medical professionals that are going to come up to you and they're going to listen to you, and they want to learn something from you too. And you definitely don't want to tell a qualified medical professional something that is blatantly wrong. Mistaken, sure. You know, everybody makes mistakes, but blatantly wrong, you don't want to do that, okay? So you want to make sure that you're well versed. And the best way to do that is finding someone else and attaching to them. And then, like I said earlier, read, research. All right, so that's the end of my video. And if you liked it, please subscribe. Please like the video, because it helps my channel. It will help get other people checking it out and hopefully learning from it. So please do me that favor and share. Please share. As always, leave any comments. Thank you so much for checking out my video, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Have a great day. Give a kiss and hug to your loved ones, and take care.